populace has been complaining about. So to move on, I would like, please give me a few seconds while I share my screen with you. Mr. Charles, I think you have to, okay.
Are we good now?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so a second, please. Okay. So we'll be talking about Ghana's new tax cuts, and then we'll be asking ourselves a question, which at the end, I hope we can all provide an answer to. Is it a relief or risk for businesses here in Ghana? So for this presentation, I'll be focusing more on the impact of these tax cuts and then the reforms on women-led small and medium enterprises and then businesses. So before we can assess something's impact on another thing, we have to know what was previously affecting it or how it was affected previously. Otherwise, we cannot measure its impact. The new changes, we cannot measure the impact without knowing what the reality was for Ghanaian women and then Ghanaian business people. So we'll be talking about the economic reality for Ghanaian women entrepreneurs. So if you are to go into our economy right now, into the market, what is the reality for women entrepreneurs here in Ghana? What are they facing? So one of it is that women lead over 40% of Ghana's SMEs and businesses. This is something that it's a shock to most people when they come to know that. So here in this country, 46% of women are involved in businesses or are entrepreneurs. They have their own businesses. So if we have 46 of women involving themselves in entrepreneurship, that means women are really contributing to the economy. But then they are facing so many things, which we would get to discuss in the next presentations. But then one of the realities is that women are leading. We have 46% of women involving themselves in entrepreneurship. And the Mastercard Index of Women Entrepreneurs did a survey where they came up with the 10 countries which have the most women involved in entrepreneurship. And it is unbelievable, or let's say it is believable actually, that the first three countries were all African countries due to a lot of factors, you know. But then Ghana ranked third, which is nice. We ranked third to Uganda. Is it Uganda? Yes, Uganda being second and then Botswana being first. So that means a lot of women here in Ghana are fighting for themselves and are contributing so much to the economy. They are creating opportunities. And so discussing this topic today is of much importance. One other economic reality for Ghanaians or for the African woman is that women face higher tax burdens across Africa. We face higher tax burdens because most of these women that are involved in the entrepreneurship and in businesses here in Africa and in Ghana, they are often involved in small and medium enterprises. They are doing things on a smaller scale. So let's take two shops, let's say two shops in Makola, and they are next to each other. But one shop is selling luxury items, and the other is a small scale shop, a woman's shop. She is selling uh, essentials like tomatoes, rice, and household items like fabrics, soaps. So the other shop is actually selling luxury items. And we know luxury items, they get to have a higher profit margin. Whereas household items and then these essentials have very tight profit margins. So if we are saying that women face higher tax burdens, it is because women are mostly involved in these small scale businesses or the small and medium enterprises. So let's say these two businesses. One is earning very high margin, profit margin, and the other one is earning a very low profit margin, a very tight one actually. And they are all supposed to pay 10% tax. So you see, that will put more strain on the other one who has a very tight profit margin. And so women are then, we have no choice but then to face the higher tax burdens here in Ghana, across Africa. Another thing is that taxes are limiting growth and opportunity for women. So because we are paying these higher tax burdens, women are mostly involving in informal businesses, small scale businesses. It is limiting their growth. They are not able to save more, to invest in their businesses, or even to involve themselves in other businesses, which they would have liked to do. So, and then the last thing is that recent reforms offer new hope. That is for businesses. So the recent reforms that we'll be talking about, it offers new hope to businesses actually. But then you see the reforms, it offers new hope to businesses, as I'm saying, but then the longevity on the economy is something that should also be looked at. Everything cannot be only have advantages to the end. Sometimes there are some disadvantages too, but then these are the economic reality for Ghanaian women entrepreneurs. Then to talk about the historical tax challenges, what have women been facing? What are these tax challenges that women-led SMEs have been facing all throughout? So it's to talk about the reality of women entrepreneurs, it's also crucial that we understand the historical challenges that they have faced that has limited their growth throughout time. One of those is high VAT, e-levy, and then complex tax compliance. So firstly, I've spoken about how most of these women are involved in informal sectors and in small and medium. So the VAT, the levies that are being taken from them is taking a toll on them. The tax compliance is so much. There are lots of tax codes which should be simplified for these women so that they can understand and know how to pay their taxes. Another is that there is informal sector dominance with limited tax education. So this is one very important thing. You go to the market and you ask a lot of them about taxes, what they know about their taxes, and a lot of them are telling you, some would find something to tell you, but then you realize that it is totally different from what is really on the ground, or the policies, the tax rules that are really here in the country. So it's something that should be, it's a historical tax challenge. It still exists till now. Um, another tax challenge is arbitrary enforcement and corruption. So this is kind of tied to the second point. Because there is limited tax education, these women are faced with arbitrary enforcement. Sometimes you go to the market and you see some of them facing some uh, enforcement, some arbitrary enforcement by these tax officials. Sometimes you see that they have been given some excessive fines to pay. Sometimes you see that the tax official seize their goods, they lock up some people's shops. And because these women do not have tax education, they are subjected to these unfair treatments, and they do not know what they should demand for. And another historical tax challenge is that these challenges that we've talked about, the points 1, 2, 3, we have similar challenges across the African countries. It's not just here in Ghana. So it is continent wide, which is very bad. So the tax reforms, which is basically what we want to talk about, what has changed, what was there before, and what is there now. So as Mr. Charles said, some of these taxes are at the moment tax reforms. They are at the moment just policies, but then we are hoping and believing. The government says that they would make sure that each of these reforms is put into practice. So we'll be discussing all of them and what has changed, how it's going to impact women-led SMEs and then businesses. So the first is the repeal of the e-levy. So the e-levy, it was one of the tax or the levies introduced by the erstwhile government, which people really went against. The populace were really against this levy. And so this is a major tax reform here in this country. People are really liking the idea of it. But what is the impact on the ground? So the repeal of the the e-levy is to boost digital transactions. So at first, we were already paying charges on your digital transactions. Every transaction that you were doing digitally, you were paying charges on it. Then the e-levy meant that you had to pay 1% additional charge on these digital transactions. So it's actually it's a lot of people became uninterested in using these platforms. So digital transactions were not boosted. It wasn't growing as it should have been in this day and age. So repealing of the e-levy is one of the ways where we are going to boost digital transactions here in this country. It's also a reduction in transaction cost, of course. Now, when you do digital transactions, the costs are lower. It's also has improved financial inclusion and digital economy participation. Many people are now included in this digital economy. Many people because there is no fear of paying these extra charges, they are including themselves more. They are participating more. So we are growing. When it comes to digital economy, we are growing as a country. And then it's also a responsiveness to public demand. It's the way that the government has shown that they are responsive to the demand of the public and to economic realities here in this country. So another reform is the income tax amendments. So income tax, that's your money that is coming into your pocket. You could have spent it, but then there are some taxes that you have to pay to the government. And one of these reforms, so there has been amendments on these income taxes. One of the amendments is the abolition of the 10% tax on betting. Mr. Charles mentioned it earlier. Some people are so happy about this abolition very much. And it's like it's your birthday and you've been given a cake. A cake, we know what your birthday and you are receiving a cake, it is yours. But then somebody, a stranger or somebody just comes and then takes the first slice and eats this cake. You wouldn't be happy about it. So that was how people felt about the 10% tax on the betting. So it's actually the women that were managing betting and gaming centers, female workers there, it was bringing their business down. They didn't get many customers as they anticipated or they had hoped for. So the abolition of the 10% tax on betting is actually helping businesses in Ghana, and then it's also helping women in these small businesses of betting and then gaming. Then there's also the removal of 1.5% tax on unprocessed gold. So people or women involved in gold mining, the legal ones, of course, now they do not have to pay the 1.5% tax on their unprocessed gold. Whatever that they get is for them. They pay the normal taxes on it, and that is fine. There is also one very important income tax amendment, which I'm very happy about, and it's the 0% tax on earnings up to the 2025 minimum wage. So right now here in this country, the minimum wage as at now is set at about 19 cedis, 97 pesos. So the thing is, right now, if they check and then you are not earning this amount of money, you are not earning up to 19 cedis, 97 pesos a day, that means you are not to be included in income tax charges. That is basically what it's about. And if women in small and medium enterprises are taught how to bookkeep, they are taught how to keep their records, a lot of them would come up and know that some days or many days they are not even earning up to this 2025 minimum wage, and so they are exempt from the income tax amendment. And so you see where the limited tax education comes into play and how disadvantaged they are because of this limited education. The next reform is also the VAT reforms, the value added tax. So now there's lower VAT rates due to the removal. Well, if the COVID-19 levy is removed eventually, this is a policy which hasn't been put into practice yet. But if it is reduced, that means our VATs are going to be, the value added taxes are going to be lower. Then there's also the allowing of input tax claims for levies. So the input tax claims, they are the claims that you get for, let's bring this, like, let me use this example. A bakery, a woman who owns a bakery, she goes to buy flour. And on that flour, she's paying VAT when she goes to buy the flour. Then on top of the VAT, she's also paying some other levies like the NHIL, the National Health Insurance levy. She's also paying the Get Fund levy. And on top of those levies, they are actually paying VATs on those levies. I hope you get me. So they are paying not just the VATs, they are paying VAT, they are paying levies and paying VAT on the levies. So now, before, if you paid the VAT, say if the woman paid the VAT on her flour and she comes to produce the bread, everything, and at the end of the month or the year, she's going to pay her taxes, she's allowed to take the VAT that she paid on the flour out of the total tax that she's supposed to pay. So let's say she's supposed to pay a tax of 23 cedis, and then the VAT that she paid on her flour was, say, 15 cedis. That means at the end, when she's going to pay her VAT to the GRA, she's actually allowed to take the 19 cedis, the VAT, I hope I said 19 cedis. So she's supposed to take the 19 cedis that she took out, that she paid for the flour, out of the total VAT that she has to pay to GRA, and then pay the remainder. So that was what was happening. And so they were losing a lot more because they paid the VAT on the flour, then they paid levies and paid VAT on the levy. So where was the VAT on the levies going now? And so this government has made sure that not only are they subtracting the VAT on the flour, but the levies, the Get Fund levies, the National Health Insurance levies, the VAT on them, they are now allowed to add it to their output tax and then take it out and pay the rest to the GRA. Then we also have the next one, that one of the value added tax reforms is raising the VAT registration threshold. So previously there was a certain point that or a certain amount of money that you have to make before you'd be allowed to, or you would be forced, I don't know if I should use for, but you would be taxed to also tax your customers for VAT. So you have to make, let's say you have to make, say, I'm not saying this is the exact amount though, but let's say you have to at the end make, your business has to make something like 200,000 cedis, and then you now have to go and charge your customers for VAT. But now the government has raised that threshold from, let's say, 200,000 cedis to like 400,000 cedis. So this is also a very important point for small and medium enterprises, such that if some of them are making some amount of money now, they don't have to charge VAT on their products that they are selling to their customers. So at the end, they are keeping more of their money, and it's going to help them to save up or reinvest in their business or create other businesses. Then there's also the removal of VAT on certain goods. So there are certain goods right now that they've removed, or there are some policies that they've removed the VAT on certain goods. So some of the goods are medical, some medical supplies. I think there's also locally produced sanitary pads. I think those ones, they removed the VAT from it. And so it's also helpful, very helpful to women and to women doing, women most at times sell these products, and then so it's helpful. It's going to make them save a lot of their money and to reinvest, as I said. Then the last of the tax reforms is the repeal of other levies. So there were some other levies where we couldn't really point out where they are coming from. Sometimes they were stable, sometimes you can see that they rise, they are going. So some of these levies were the carbon emissions levy. It was introduced in 2023 by the erstwhile government. So it was supposed to, I don't know, I think they brought it as a way to decrease pollution, but then it was actually contributing to high cost of goods. So if it has been scrapped off now, that means we can lower our goods because they are no more paying this carbon emissions levy. Then there are some nuisance taxes. Nuisance taxes are just the taxes where the majority of people do not know what they are using it for, but they are being charged. There's been removal of a lot of them, like the e-levy and a whole lot. Then there's the adjustments to the growth and sustainability levy. So the growth and sustainability levy is actually charged to only big businesses. So right now, let's say if they were charging the big businesses 1 cedi, they have adjusted it and they are now charging them a lot more. So this is going to help the economy. Instead of charging the women in the small and medium enterprises and businesses, now they are charging the bigger businesses, which have a lot of profit margins, a bigger profit margin. They have adjusted the growth and sustainability levy so that they can charge them more. So these are basically the tax reforms, how they are going to help small and medium enterprises. So we've talked about the reforms. I think we can also directly tell how these tax cuts can benefit women-led SMEs. So now there is lower tax burden on small and medium enterprises. Some of the tax have been cut out, and so now they pay lesser taxes compared to what they used to pay. There is now more disposable income from income tax relief. Some of the income tax relief, some of them, they have been taking off, and so there's more disposable income. They get to keep more of their money. There's removal of regressive taxes like the e-levy, and then there's improved cash flow through the VAT credits. So what are the challenges that remain despite these tax cuts? So the government has brought these policies, they have put some into practice, but there still remain challenges. One of them is the information and knowledge gaps. So the information and knowledge gap, meaning a lot of these women still do not have entrepreneurs, they do not have knowledge on these taxes. There's still limited tax knowledge, which the GRA has said that they are going to do a whole lot of public education so that they can get a lot of our women in mothers and our women in businesses here in Ghana to understand these things. And so they are looking to bridge these gaps, this information and knowledge gap. There's also concentration in low profit sectors. When it comes to Ghana, Africa, most of the women are concentrating in just the low profit sectors. And maybe I've not done the research to know, maybe Mr. Charles can later tell us why. But then a lot of the women are concentrating only in these low profit sectors. It's also a challenge. I believe that if they were going into bigger, I obviously one of those things would be monetary issues, but then the concentration in low profit sectors remains a challenge despite these tax cuts. Then there's digital skills and technology adoption. So digital skills like your ability to use computers, smartphones, internet, and then technology adoption using digital tools like e-commerce platforms. Some people are using websites, social media, a whole lot to grow their businesses, mobile money, they are all technology, forms of technology adoption. But then we see that it's a challenge because most of these women are not, a lot of them are not involved in themselves because they believe that they could be fraud, they could be involved in fraud or people could fraud them. There's a whole lot of misinformation on this particular point. So it still remains a challenge. I think only about 25% of women entrepreneurs are actively using e-commerce platforms so it is making them lose opportunities. It's like you selling just in your neighborhood and not extending it to other places. You don't know where you could get your loyal customers from. So imagine if these women were to incorporate their normal selling in their neighborhood, their vicinity, and then incorporate the digital skills, they adopt technology, they could expand their market. So how can these tax cuts be achieved and how can it be sustained? So some of the tax reforms that we talked about previously are still just policies on paper. Some of them have been achieved. But then what can we as a people, if we want to achieve these tax cuts and more, if we want to be able to sustain them, if we want to demand for these tax cuts, what are some of the things if we feel that we deserve these tax cuts, what are some of the ways where we can achieve it and then sustain it? So one way is to make tax rules fair to women. So because most women are involved in the informal businesses, I think we should make tax rules. Some countries are actually doing it, where they check the income that your business makes before they charge or before they tax you. Then there should be simplification of tax codes, which the GRA said they are doing. I cannot confirm, but they said they are doing it and simplifying the tax codes in such a way that it would be very easy for the women to understand, women in business and small businesses to understand. We should also educate women about taxes. Imagine the many things that could happen if these women knew about the taxes that they are supposed to pay or the rights that they have in these taxes, how they can claim back their VATs. If they knew this information, it could help them a lot. Then these women should be encouraged to work with groups that support women. So there are many groups. When you go to the markets, you can see that they form groups for themselves to support each other. Then you have to encourage women participation in policy advocacy. So as we even have Miss Angela here who is strongly doing this. She's advocating for policy for women. She is the head for Ladies Network for Economic Freedom, and so she's doing a lot in this policy advocacy in educating women. And I believe that we should encourage more women to do same so that we can achieve much bigger things. Then we should also help small businesses become official. Businesses can now register because the taxes have been cut. A lot of them have been cut. And so if you're a small business and you register now, I believe that if the women are educated on how the taxes have been cut, it would help them. They would actually not be afraid to go register their businesses and become official now. So the African context, what are some of the lessons from across the continent? What are some people doing that maybe we could adopt here in Ghana or we could actually educate others about? So in Rwanda, they have something called the specialized taxpayer training for SMEs. So this training is where they target just small and medium enterprises, and they take many women-led businesses Then they simplify tax compliance and then educate these entrepreneurs on tax rights and procedures. So they are just educating them, making sure that these women know what it is about, or what they have to pay, what they don't have to pay, how they can claim for their tax returns, and a whole lot. Then in Zambia, they have something called the taxpayer segmentation scheme. So this scheme, it's categorized, they categorize the business by size, by capacity, and then they allow the smaller women-led businesses to benefit from simplified tax regimes and lower compliance costs, which I was saying. They look at your business, how small it is, the capacity, the size, what you are doing, how much you are earning, and then they make sure that they fight for you, or they simplify these regimes for you. And then at the end, you are paying lower compliance costs. Then in Morocco, they have something called the gender responsive budgeting and then legal reforms. So they have embedded, Morocco has actually embedded gender equality into its budgeting and tax policy framework. Imagine if we could stand up and advocate for something like this here in this country, how beneficial it would be to women-led SMEs and businesses. So these are actually laws and programs that they put in place to ensure that tax policies, they consider women's economic participation first, especially women in rural areas. So they do that to make sure that women are included in financial so that women are not charged more than they are earning. That's basically what's, because women mostly here in Africa involved in the informal sector and then the small and medium enterprises. Then in Senegal, they have the Medium Taxpayer Center for SMEs. So here it's a center that offers dedicated services to women-led businesses. So any service that women-led businesses have, they know that they go to the Medium Taxpayer Center for SMEs. So imagine we had that in Ghana just for women entrepreneurs to go to. So these people, they simplify tax filing and then they provide advisory support to these women. It's wonderful. Then we have South Africa. They have digital tax administration and SME support. So they have invested actually in digital platforms that simplify tax filing. So if these women are filing their taxes, they do not have to all the time go and get these papers, go to this office. It's just simplified. They pick up their phones, any tool, anything that's can access the internet, they just pick it up, they file their taxes, they pay everything that they are supposed to do. So if there's something like that here in Ghana for the women, I think it will be easier for them to file their taxes. It will also be a way for them to also keep their records of the taxes they are paying. So the practical steps for women entrepreneurs, what should women entrepreneurs really do? So they should register their businesses with the relevant authorities. They should keep good records. Your records will let you know. You would, if you don't keep your records, how would they know what to charge you, what to exempt you from? So they should keep good records. They should understand and update themselves with taxes. They should always be involving themselves in programs like we are doing now, which would educate them and update them on information about their taxes. They should use available support and training, of course. They should also join women's business networks and association, seek professional help, and they themselves should also advocate and engage with tax authorities by participating in forums or programs that influence policies which affect them. They should always speak up. If they believe that this tax is not helping us, they should join forces, join their networks, and then speak up. They advocate and then they engage with the tax authorities. And I believe no tax authority would not come out to hear out what women are saying. And so these things, if there are practical steps which if women entrepreneurs really, really engage in, it would bring about a lot of good reforms, more than we are experiencing now. So thank you for our attention. And I believe we'll have our question and answer sessions at the end. I believe so. So
Yes,
thank you,
please.
Miss Rebecca. Yes.
Thank you so much for your presentation. So we are still on the theme Ghana's new tax cuts, the relief and the risk for businesses. And Miss Mandy, in her presentation, I think raised the point that we are to also take note of. So she mentioned that women, about 46% of women in Ghana are part of business, which means they contribute to the economic growth of the country. But one thing that is lacking on their side, or one thing that would help them more, is the education. I believe the education on the taxes for women is something that we need to work out more. Because I realized one time my mother owned a shop, and then she got there and then the shop has been closed with some new padlock from the MAA people, and then they asked her to pay something before she opens and then afterwards she will go and then pay the tax. So with the education, they will get to know the effect of the taxes on their businesses. So now we want to zoom into the discussion. I believe Miss Mandy has presented so well on the questions or our discussions for today, but then there are a lot to still learn. So we'll zoom into the discussion period. Please, if you have any question, kindly jot them down. Afterwards, there will be a section for questions and answers. So please, our panelists, Miss Mandy and Mrs. Angela, please, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, please. So we are still on the new tax cuts, which is either a relief or a risk for businesses. And then if you are not a business person, you think it's a relief for Ghanaians, but then it could be a risk for businesses as well. So that is why we are here to discuss certain. And then I believe that if you had the chance to make this well known to other people to join, it will be a very inspiring talk or presentation for them. So we would want to zoom into the discussion with some questions, and then our dear people here would contribute more or elaborate more on them for us to have the knowledge about it. So please, with the question, if I ask and then I don't know how to go about it, should I mention name, or if I ask and then one of you would answer?
Well, I think we will unmute our mics. Whoever goes first, we speak about the question.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Miss Mandy, please, is it fine by you?
Yes, that's fine by me too.
Okay. Okay. So with our first question, we want to know about the motivation behind these tax reforms. This tax that are being taxed, what do you think is the motivation behind it?
Okay, so from my perspective, if you look at the tax reforms or the new tax cuts, I think the main component was to take away some of these nuisance tax, as Mandy earlier expressed about, and also to enable businesses to flourish, because from the time of COVID-19, you could see that most economies were devastated, okay, and governments were scrambling for solutions. Most of the economies were hit. We went down. If you can recall, from the time of COVID-19 till now, it has been like if inflation has rise to the highest level.
Sure.
We've had so many hey, can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Okay, I thought okay, so if you look at the policies, I think it was to relieve some of these burdens that businesses carry. So that's what I would say from my perspective.
Okay. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
so yeah, Miss Rebecca, I have something to add in addition.
Oh,
Though
sure,
Miss
please, you can go ahead.
Though Miss Angela has said a whole lot, but I also think that one thing that one motivation behind is that the government wanted to show how responsive they are to public demand. So they saw that the public was demanding for the removal of some of these taxes, and then they showed it. And I also think that they want to make sure that people here or business people in Ghana know that the government trusts them in a way. So they want to make sure that everything is subsidized in a way where your taxes are quite lower and they trust you to go and pay. They trust you to make it official. So I think that trust. So I don't know whether it would be a disadvantage or an advantage for the economy in general, but that is also one of the motivations behind. It's also to stimulate economic growth, individual economic growth for all of the people here in the country, business people. So those are some of the motivations that I think is behind this reform.
Yes, please. Thank you so much for your
I
contribution.
I don't know if I can add up to that.
Yes, please.
All right. So taking for instance, e-levy, all right, and the impact it had on mobile money transactions, the share volumes of mobile money transactions in a digital space like Ghana, where we're trying to expand our digital market. E-levy posed a threat to our digital expansion, right? And so now, once the e-levy is taking off, now we're getting into billions of cedis of mobile money transactions for the first quarter of the year. Billion. And that alone expands our digital space as a country. And then it means that we are getting into more transactions happening over the digital space. And that expansion alone for our economy does a lot of work. It frees up space for a lot of investments to come into the economy, right? And so then you realize that people are not so much burdened. Imagine you have to do a transaction of, say, 10,000 cedis over wire transfer. And you have to pay 1% of that. Okay, so on top of my head, 1% of 10,000 cedis should be about 1,000 cedis. So you are paying 1,000 cedis for no work done. You are paying 1,000 cedis because you are being penalized for transferring money. And that alone doesn't encourage businesses in the digital space. But I'm sure that now the digital space is beginning to open up and a lot of more people are doing transactions.
Yes, please. So I think before e-levy, you can go to a market woman or a market woman and you tell the person, I have my money on my phone. Can I send it to you? The person will be okay. Oh, you can send it. And then after e-levy with the charges, sometimes you go and they will tell you, go and look for a vendor to withdraw your money before you come. And so I think the cut down of the e-levy is much relief for not only business people, but a relief for some of us Ghanaians. And so I think that one alone is good. So we'll zoom into the next question. And so we want to know, our panelists, we want to know that, do you see these tax cuts as a temporal measure or they represent a shift in long-term tax policy direction? Please, I hope you got the question.
Yeah, sorry, come again.
So I was asking that, do you see these tax cuts as a temporary measure or they represent a shift in a long-term tax policy direction?
Now, looking at these tax cuts, okay, for now, I would say it's a temporary measure because looking at our government, our governance system, okay, can we say for a fact that these reforms are going to be there even after the next 4 years or even after change of like parliament? So if it's going to be a permanent solution, how sorry about that. So these reforms must be permanent, but looking at, as I said earlier, looking at our governance system, it's going to be a temporary solution. Now, if Ghana is, truly going to empower its people about tax reforms and helping businesses to alleviate some of these burdens, I think the best solution, okay, is to empower these informal sectors or these informal businesses, because as Mandy presented earlier on, about 75% of businesses owned in Ghana here is mostly informal, and the largest participants of these informal businesses are women. And look at the tax that we mentioned, okay, from COVID to VAT to some of this motor insurance and betting tax. Let's be honest with ourselves. How many of these taxes are helping these informal businesses? So this is, I think, a temporary solution for a very huge and permanent problem. Yeah.
Okay. It's a temporary solution for a permanent problem. And it's actually the truth. If only the next government will continue. And please, Miss Man, did you have any contribution?
No, I think I do not have any comments different from what Miss Angela has said.
Okay. Okay, then we'll go to the next question. So we want to know the categories of businesses that will stand to benefit most of this tax cut.
Mandy, would you like to go first?
Well, yes, sorry, Angela, thank you. But then
No.
looking at the whole comprehensive reform that the government has brought out, looking at analyzing all the policies, it comes out like it is going to benefit more of people that are in the informal sectors, or no, people that are formal. They have registered their business, but then are involved more in the small and medium enterprises. That's what it's looking like. So we hope that it goes in that direction, and then most of the policies that are just on paper right now are going to be put into practice sooner, and then we can begin to analyze the impact well as it should be impacted. But then as at now, looking at all these cuts, they are making sure that it's going in the favor of the majority of Ghanaians. Majority of us are involved in these informal sectors. Majority of us are involved in these small and medium enterprises and businesses. So it's going to actually benefit or profit these businesses, because looking at the sustainability and growth levy, they have actually increased it, and that levy is only charged on the bigger companies, the bigger businesses with very huge profits. So looking at it, the comprehensive analysis of it, I think is going to benefit the people in the medium and small enterprises. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So to add up to Miss Mandy's answer, let's break it down to our day-to-day activities. Okay. Let's go to Makola. If you go to Makola, Mami Sewa selling fos or Mami Ekia selling tomatoes by the roadside. Okay. Who doesn't even have a shop in Makola? How is this tax cuts helping her? Okay. She will wake up in the morning at 3 a.m., go to the Makola station to wait for the villagers that come by transport to, sell their goods. She will buy from them and then wait morning to evening to finish selling her goods. Now, in the course of the day, if these people, how do they call it? Is it Ambaye or Abaye? I don't know what is their name. Sorry.
Abaye.
Abaye. Those days they come there and they say, I think that the reason why they are there is to suck them from the roadside. If they're not going to participate, they take money from them. And I think that is what they call tax. But that's not what it is. They're just taking money from them. So if they take the money from them, they'll still stay by the roadside, right? So those people by the roadside who don't have shops, how are these tax helping them? If you take away the nuisance tax, the COVID and the e-levy, which is very good, how is this other tax reforms helping the small informal sector businesses? Okay, so if you are looking at it, I think that this tax is a relief for all Ghanaians because of some of these nuisance tax, like this betting, the lottery taxes, and the e-levy. So just like Mr. Charles earlier on said, if you are transferring a huge sum of money to somebody, you have to just pay another extra 1% because they're just sending money. So if you look at businesses that deals with these transactions, some of these registered businesses, yeah, it's going to help them. But the into seller, the pepper seller, these taxes are not helping them one bit. That is my point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I chip in
Sure.
something?
Yes.
All right. So also then we have to look at our tax setup. All right. Most of these taxes are indirect taxes. All right. And so it means that anybody that does any transaction pays a tax. However, a lot more are indirect. For instance, the COVID-19. COVID-19 is charged across board. And so then the rippling effect is felt by everybody that buys anything at all. We may not feel it because we do not know tax components of what we are buying. But if you have the privilege of going to sit in a restaurant, I remember, I think it was that Christmas, all right, I took the family out, and then after the end of everything, we realized that we had consumed just, I don't remember the amount, but just around a little over 500. But we're, at the end of the day, we're paying close to 700 cedis because of these taxes that have been added. And so we're paying for something we are not eating. So we're being punished for deciding to eat out. You understand?
You could have started at the junction to buy your watch, but you said you go to restaurant.
And so once everybody is buying something, even the fuel we use has these levies on them. And so your trotro you pick that has its charges based on fuel prices also affect you because of these same taxes. And so once these taxes are beginning to come off, it is the ordinary Ghanaian that begins to benefit, irrespective of how little it is. Thank you.
Miss Rebecca, may I come in to just...
Sorry, Mandy, go for it. Go ahead.
Sorry, Rebecca, please. I think you asked which category of businesses that is going to affect, right?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I believe it's still the small and medium enterprises. As Mr. Charles was saying, he went to a restaurant and he's being charged these VATs. Because the government is charging the restaurant the VAT, so you understand. So right now the government is lowering the VAT for these businesses. The government is scrapping away something like the emissions levy, which he was talking about. So in the end,
please, you're looking at the categories that will benefit.
Did you say the business categories or just general categories?
Business category that will benefit from the
yes.
If you look
So
at
I think it's still the small and medium enterprises. So looking at, I'm just using Mr. Charles' example to explain something. So he was talking about how there were lots of VATs at the end. He had to pay a lot of extra charges. So looking comprehensively at the reforms that the government has brought about, is going to scrap a lot of these away.
It benefits like every Ghanaian.
Yeah.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you. Hello. Please, we can hear you.
We can hear you. Oh la la.
Miss Mandy, I think you can continue.
But we can't enjoy the data.
So because these VATs have been removed, if our small and medium enterprise owners are going to be very faithful to Ghanaians, then most of these charges should be taken off because the government has taken off some of these charges for them. So it is also up to us to also demand for some of these things, to also educate ourselves and to educate some of these business owners. That is, if they do not know. I don't know whether they don't know. But ultimately, it's supposed to relieve us in a way, because it is a way that the government is trying to show us how responsible we are. Yes, Angela.
Sorry.
No problem. I think Mandy can finish her point.
That was basically all I'm saying. That if most of these medium and small enterprises are going to be faithful to us, then they should be lowering some of the costs, because some of these VATs have been taken off now. The emissions levy has been taken off a whole lot. The VATs have been reduced. Now they can go and do tax returns. They can go and file tax returns, not on just their VAT, but then on the output taxes that they were paying. Now they can even file tax returns on them. So maybe it's because the government, the business owners do not have this education. They don't know that they can even go and file for these tax returns, or they don't know that the government has scrapped this percentage, or they don't know that the government has scrapped everything off. I think it's because of that. So as the education is going, as the policies are reinforcing each other, in the end, we are all supposed to benefit in a way. It's going to relieve us in a way, more than it has been for the previous years. I think we are going to believe for a while. That is if the next government does not come to change everything. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you too. Miss
Sorry, my
Angela.
network was
Okay.
misbehaving. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think Mandy has said a lot, so let's move on.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
some people just joined. So we are still on the team Ghana's new task cards, whether it's a relief or a risk, and we are having a discussion on that. So we are going to our next question. Okay, so our next question is, will these task cards significantly reduce the cost of transacting businesses in Ghana?
Certainly.
Yeah,
Certainly.
it's going to, there's this say that lower taxes means more cash flow. Because people are paying a lot of tax. There was this news earlier this week that Momo transactions just this April has shot up to, is it 365 million or billion cities
Yeah,
or
I
so?
think Mr. Charles also mentioned that.
Yeah. So this tax reforms is this tax cut is actually a good thing, because me per se, first I used to save money in my bank account, and then if I want to buy something, I don't like holding physical money because of a whole lot of bad things. You can be robbed, it can fall out of your pocket and all that. So mostly if I'm going to town, my money is far, far, far away in my bank account until I get to the spot where I want to buy whatever I want to buy. Then I transfer it to my Momo, then withdraw it. But when this e-levy tax came, man, I have to withdraw my money like yesterday before I go to the place that I want to go to. But now that this e-levy has been abolished and all that, like you can see people are now using the um Momo again,
Yes.
because people were not even using it. First, you used to, as you said earlier on, you want to go and buy something. Even if more business women were taking it, oh man, I want to pay Momo. They're like, okay, yeah, just add charges. But when this e-levy came, please find somewhere and withdraw the money, because it's going to be hectic. Assuming she receives that money and she also wants to pay something else, she's going to pay another 1% on that money you've already sent her, that you've already paid that 1% on. So I think this taxes is going to really help people. But you know how Ghanaians we behave. Recently, they said dollar dollar has decreased.
It's
Please,
really decreasing.
yes. Now the question I want to ask is, those who have been, me have not been going out recently. Those who have been going out, please, have they changed the price of the cost of the transport? Sorry.
So this Friday I was coming in home, and then one passenger asked the mate that, when are they going to reduce the transport fare? It was on Monday.
So you see,
He said
Ghanaians,
Monday.
we have this lifestyle. Even though this tax cut was not recently, I think it was somewhere February or March or so. But how are prices? We are still paying the same amount of money for fare, for food, for water, for everything. So we just hope that Ghanaians will also change their mind sometimes. And if this tax cut is helping us and is going to relieve us of some of these burdens, we as Ghanaians, let us also do our part and then like go according to what we are trying to achieve. So if we've cut some of these taxes, let's reduce our prices. Let people, reinvest in their business. Let people save a lot and all that.
Well,
Okay.
that will also take us to another conversation of price control mechanisms and all of that. But then, unfortunately, we don't run a price control system in Ghana. And so then
Yeah.
the market will have to wait for the players to readjust themselves. And then they are giving in the cost accounting principles of FIFO and LIFO that they bought the the things when the dollar was higher, and so now,
I was
and
about
a
to
whole
say
lot of
that.
things.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
Mr.
Yeah.
Charles, one thing that is killing us Ghanaians, okay. So if you look at all of these things in the lens from the libertarian perspective, okay, as
Mm,
libertarians, we believe that a freer citizen is an empowered citizen.
yeah.
Just like you said, you have to leave it to the price control authorities. Who are the price control authorities? If we are able to, cut some of these challenges and some of these barriers, we can do our own thing as a people and then we move forward. Yes, the government is supposed to protect us. He has done his part very well by cutting these taxes. We as citizens, what are we doing? Now we have to wait for the price control team to come and change it, and now we have to come and adapt and do all of, like, there are so many barriers entangling businesses in Ghana. It's too much. So you see, people are, if you look at me, I think most people are not registering their businesses. Some of these we said that women owned businesses are informal. Have you thought of it that these people have the money to register but they won't register it? Like have anyone thought of some of these things before?
Because of the
Yes.
taxes.
Before you
The
register a business, see, when I started at first, somewhere in 2021, Mr. Charles, I went to register LANEF. Just registration. Mine is not even a business or a non-profit organization. They said we have two options. Either we wait for the long queue or, pay and then it will come in an express time or whatever. Me too, I want to hurry up and do my thing. So I just paid the express. The express took about 4 months. So my question is, what about those normal queue? If we're supposed to join a normal queue, when are we going to receive it? So some of these businesses, I feel like they have the money to pay for this registration and whatnot. But the challenges they face, the barriers they have to cross and meet before they register these businesses, it's not appealing to even register their business. So they remain informal and then, I don't know, probably suffer the consequences later. Or, like, it's too much.
I think
we can we
Mr. Charles mentioned something on the adjustment. I think
Mhm.
for the time being now, people in businesses are also a little bit confused because that when the dollar was high, maybe they have brought in things that they are not done selling. And so now if they are saying that they've reduced the exchange price, so they have to reduce the price, at the end of the day, it is affecting them because before that they had already bring in the things which was higher or a bit expensive. So a friend of mine who is into business told me that now you will go and the people will tell you that there are no items to buy, or even though there is, because they don't want to sell. And at the end of the day,
They
they
will
would,
lose.
yes. So they have
Yeah.
the items
So
there though, but then so it depends on the adjustment. So for the time being now, there will be some misunderstanding, some confusion, but then I think as we proceed, everything will be fine.
you
Because for
know,
now, they also
problem
don't
is
want
that
to lose.
the problem is that we Ghanaians, if we sit here to talk about how Ghanaians behave, if you are into business, okay. Recently, there was one woman, one of my customers came. I'm also a small business owner. She came to our shop and she was like, "Hey, madam, dollar has decreased, so has the prices changed?" And I'm like, "Oh, I can't tell. I haven't gone for new products, so I wouldn't be able to tell if there's a change in price." She was like, you business owners there, that's how you are. If you were like having old goods and then they increase the price, that and you increase your price. You won't say that they're going to bring new things and then you come and increase them. But the thing is that they forget that if they increase price out there and you don't increase yours, how will you sell, make profits to go and buy those new um, increased goods? Now, they've decreased goods, yes, we know. If we don't sell the one we went to buy at the same price, which was, increased earlier. How then do we make more money to go and bring more goods? So the thing is like sideways. We are expecting people to change price, but we are not changing ours. You get it? But I think that, as some of these educations are going on, maybe it will go out there and then people are going to learn about some of these changes and then they will understand. I think, as Mr. Charles said, we should wait for the price control authorities. If we have it in the back of our minds that, oh, yes, I'm a business owner, if it
Hello.
Hello. Oh, okay.
Angela's network
Okay.
is
Yeah.
caution.
So I think we can now have the questions and the
have
answer
it
section.
Hey, sorry. So I was just speaking in the air.
Yeah, your network.
Oh, sorry.
No problem.
Sorry.
But were you able to make your point? Were you able to
I
get your
wouldn't
point
know where I
across?
cut off, but I think it's all good.
All right, thank
All
you.
Yeah.
right. So I think if anyone is having a question, the person
Question
can.
or a
Sorry,
contribution
Yes,
can
please.
does it mean we've ended the discussion section?
Please, we'll come back to you people again
come back
after
to
the
you.
questions and
Oh,
the
okay.
answers.
Sure.
This is anyone having a question or a contribution?
Anyone, that means anyone in the gallery apart from the guests for the day. So anybody who is on the call who wants to add up, you have a question, you want to make a contribution, please, you can do that now. If you want to make a contribution or a question to the discussion so far, please, you can do that now. If not, Rebecca, please continue.
Okay. So as there are no questions, we'll go back to the discussion section. And this time around, we want to know the ways forward, how best we can solve these things, and then how best we can help ourselves.
Okay, I don't know if I can start or will somebody want to go ahead?
Please start.
Okay, so the way forward, number one, is to, if you're a business person, get tax education. That's the first thing. Get tax education. I cannot overemphasize this enough. Get tax education. Because then before you are even able to calculate your taxes, you are given basic bookkeeping training. And in our last training we did at Kyle, the Dara Institute, we thought a lot on bookkeeping. We thought on how to maintain your books so that you are tax compliant and all of that. That even shifts you from taxes to becoming a good accounting person for your business. So as a business person, you ought to prioritize on your bookkeeping, your taxes, and how to file your taxes, get knowledge on all of these things. Number two is that our advocacy on tax reduction should continue. Like I said before in the welcoming address, there are some of the taxes we lobbied against that are still not been repealed, like the COVID-19 one. The excuse is that they are still in contact with IMF and they have to do some negotiations and all of that. We are waiting to see, but then we should not relent on our advocacy platforms. And then we should be informed the tax messages that are coming out. I think I'll leave it here for now for the rest of the country.
Miss Mandy, Miss Angela, any contribution towards the way forward?
I think if you go back to Miss Mandy's presentation, I think she mentioned quite a few about, is it Rwanda or Zambia? I've forgotten. But this tax reforms, okay, we were looking at it from the women-led businesses, and they are informal. So how do we go about it? I think that if there's a way we can digitalize some of these informals, I don't know, but it's just how do I put it? A suggestion or an idea that I'm putting out there. If you can digitalize this informal session, sector, sorry, and then find a way to know how many women businesses we have, and find a specific tax for women because women are suffering a lot. And as advocates for women economic freedom and women empowerment, I think if we're able to formalize some of these operations, it's going to help us a lot. So moving forward, let's see how we can digitalize our informal sector, sorry, and then find specific tax reliefs for these women. Yeah, I would like to end here.
Okay, Miss Mandy, please, do you have anything to say?
Yes. So,
Okay.
Mr. Charles and then Miss Angela have said almost everything that I want to say. But then one very important thing that I want to add is that we have a lot of things left to do, a lot of things that we have to demand for, or a lot of implementations that have to be put in place. So looking at these reforms, well, we can decide. I think a lot of us have decided to give the government something like a grace period because the reforms were introduced in March of this year. And so we are now in May. Yes,
Yeah.
we are heading towards the end of May and then into June. So it's a surprise that many of these reforms that were introduced by the government, many of the initiatives that were introduced by the GRA still remains just policies on paper. A lot of them still remains just ordinary policies on paper. They've not been implemented. And so I don't know how we as a people are going to assess the impact of these reforms and then to know how it is really affecting our pockets and how it's not affecting our pockets unless the full implementation takes place, and then we can be able to
Exactly.
do that. So yeah, so I don't know when the government has decided to fully implement these reforms, but then they have presented it to us. And a lot of the times, many people believe that these reforms are all in place, and that is not the case at all. So the education still needs to be ongoing. A platform like this is very perfect. We have been able to reach a number of people today. So we should also keep in mind that we have a lot left to do. Yes.
Okay.
So sorry, to just summarize everything, a little quote I want to add. So Thomas Jefferson said something. He said, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. So as women, okay, I'm speaking for women per se. As women, I think we should demand policies that reflect who we are. We don't have much of a say when it comes to like women and our issues in Ghana here. But I think if we're able to include ourselves, okay, into some of these policies and all that, and ask for a fair system, it's going to help us in the long run. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Miss Mandy, and thank you so much, Miss Angela, for your contribution and then the knowledge you have shared to us.
Okay, I don't know if Rebecca, if I can make a little contribution here.
Yes, please.
Okay, so Angela is talking about digitalizing the space for women economy and all of that. Well, apart from everything, I think we've been having a lot of discussions as an institute on tax policy and compliance, and we've been doing a lot of tax training. This is outside the scope of Liberty, but however, we can also look at the digitalization aspects. Another aspect of my life that is separate from this, and so we have a whole IT setup, IT build up. Maybe we can look at collaborating with the women-led organizations, and then generally we can pilot with the women organization, and then generally look at building something, a toolkit for taxation, tax compliance, tax learning, and all of that. We can begin to have that conversation where there's a software that has all onion sellers. And so all onion women who sell onion are on the platform and neatly enumerated and all of that. It can be a discussion we can begin to have. And then maybe Angela can lead that and then get us funding to start.
Hey, Mr. Charles.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Charles. I think the participants or we on the call, we still have the chance like to make a contribution or ask a question. If you have any contribution or a question to ask, you can go ahead and ask or share your contribution. Please, if you do, you can raise up your hand so that you'll be given the chance to share your contribution or ask your question. Is there anybody? Okay, then we will call on Mr. Charles to give us the closing remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody that joined the call and the discussion. It's been insightful. I want to thank Mandy for the exhaustive presentation she gave. I think she touched on virtually everything we're all planning to say, and so we had very little to say, and that tells you the extent with which she went into research and preparation for today. And so Mandy, we want to appreciate your efforts and your contribution. Going forward, we're also going to be continuing with our tax dialogue, tax education, tax planning, and all of that. And so if you're a businessman, businesswoman on this call, you are having issues with taxation, you want to understand Ghana's tax system, watch out. So a lot of you who are on the call some of you have filled the Google form, some of you have not filled the Google form. What is happening is that we are consolidating everybody that came through the program, and then we're putting all of you on a WhatsApp space. We're going to get interactive and then get to know your business issues one-on-one and find a way to helping you solve those issues at a very, very competitive price, if not free, because this institution exists to help, not to make profit, right? And so for those of you who filled the form, we're asking some of you to donate to the advocacy and the training programs we're doing. If you have the ability to, please do. It would help us to serve a lot of people, help structure their businesses, help structure their taxation. Because now, if we are to do some of these things we are going to do for people for free, you have to get an accountant, you have to get a tax expert, and these things don't come cheap. All right. We are fortunate to have some of this knowledge at our fingertips. Where we don't have them, we have experts on standby who are ready to help us at a reduced price. All right. And so the institute is taking care of some of these things. And so please, for those of you who have issues with your businesses, especially in the area of accounting, taxes and all of that. When we are done, please, on the WhatsApp platform, the conversations will continue. We want to be able to build an ecosystem of businessmen and women that are free. So Angela mentioned when she was talking that we are libertarian. We believe that we have to be free to do what we have to do. And so that is just that. Thank you very much for joining us today. I think I've added the vote of thanks and the closing remarks together because we are a little behind our scheduled closing time. But then I believe that the conversation has been very, very insightful. I'll stop talking now and allow the rest to pass on their closing comments if there's any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Charles, and thank you to all the participants. And much thank you to Miss Mandy and Miss Angela. Thank you for your time. Any last words from Miss Mandy or Miss Angela?
Yes, I also just want to say thank you to the Kyle Institute, Mr. Charles. Thank you for the opportunity and for giving me the platform to come and share my knowledge on this topic, which I very deeply like. So if there are more opportunities, I would like to nominate and recommend myself. Thank you very much anyway.
Okay, I don't know if this has to come in public now, but myself and Angela were just gossiping about you.
Oh, wow. Then we'll talk about it in private. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
I
Sure.
think it was more of talking about you, not gossiping about you.
Once she was not there, we were gossiping.
Oh no. So you know how Mandy is good. So you like to talk about how good someone is behind their back so that their head will not become big. Anyways, so I also like to thank you all for this privilege to speak about this issue. And thank you for joining the participants. I want to thank you all very much for joining us this evening to listen to our knowledge on these tax reforms. I hope that we'll be able to come together and move forward as a great and freer people. Let's all join this WhatsApp Mr. Charles is talking about, and I know that we will be free and we'll be blessed. Thank you very much.
I think the link can be shared so that people interested can join. If it's possible.
Yeah, Mr. Charles, if you already have the WhatsApp group, you can share it in the message and then they can all join.
Mr. Charles.
I was talking. I thought I was talking. I thought I was unmuted. No, knowing us. So I'm saying that I'm copying the link, the WhatsApp link, and I'm about to share it onto the call. Where are you? Okay, copy link. Boom. So the link is now in the chat. You can just click on it if you are not on the participants WhatsApp platform. Use the link to join. I think there are 1 or 2 people I've sent the link to personally. There's one Osebunsu. I think I've sent you the link to. You can look at it, and then if you're interested, join the platform. Thank you very much. We'll have some other conversations.
Thank you. So I think we can call it a nice evening.
Thank you very much for joining. Have a wonderful night.
Have an amazing weekend, everybody.
Same to you, Miss Mandy.